This is the One Girl Revolution podcast, a podcast that highlights the stories of world-changing women and girls across the country. We hope that these stories inspire you, but even more so, we hope that these stories help you to see your own value, your purpose, and your power to change the world through your life. Every woman and girl is a One Girl Revolution. Hello, and welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast. It's your girl, Kate, here. Today's episode is deeply powerful and incredibly tender. It is about love, motherhood, grief, and the strength that rises from heartbreak. You will meet a remarkable woman named Charla Grim. Charla is a wife and mother. She is the mother of 3 beautiful boys, Mason, Emmett, and Garrison. We talk a lot in this episode about Emmett and her experience. Emmett was born sleeping. Charla and her husband went to the hospital expecting to welcome their beautiful baby boy into the world, and instead they heard the words that no parent should ever hear. "I am sorry, your baby does not have a heartbeat." Their lives were changed in an instant. Nothing prepares a parent for that kind of loss. There is no roadmap, no handbook, no easy way through. The grief does not go away. You learn to carry it. You learn to live with both love and heartbreak at the same time. That is what Charla is doing every single day since she lost Emmett. Charla wrote something on Emmett's first birthday that moved me deeply, and you can check out her Instagram page if you want to read it yourself. She wrote that Emmett made them parents again. He filled their hearts with joy and love. She said that losing him showed them a strength they never knew they had. He brought their family closer. He transformed their lives and made them better people. She wonders every day what his life would have been like, what color his eyes would have been, what his laugh would have sounded like, what his smile would have looked like. She said she knows his eyes would have taken her breath away. There is so much love in that post and in those words. That love is the heartbreak of today's episode. But also, Charla has so much wisdom and she shares so authentically her experience. And I know that it's going to inspire so many of you. And I know that there are so many listeners out there who have experienced a similar loss. And so I want you to know that you are not alone. We are here today to honor Charla's story, her journey as a One Girl Revolution. We believe that every single woman, every single girl is a One Girl Revolution, and they're changing the world every single day. And Charla is a beautiful example of that. We are here today to honor Emmett, who lived and who continues to live through the love of his family. And we are just here to honor all the One Girl Revolutions out there, all of the One Girl Revolutions who are mothers and who have experienced loss. You are not alone, and we are here standing with you. If you want to follow more about Charla's journey and support her family, you can follow her on Instagram. I will put her Instagram in our show notes and also the website for Brie Laura, which she talks about, where she works. I am so honored and so excited to share Charla's story with you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Please share this episode because you never know who might be touched by this story. So please share Charla's episode with all of your friends and family. Share it on Instagram, share it on social media. Without further ado, here is my conversation with my beautiful friend, Charla. Charla, welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you on. I'm so honored to have you on because there's so much that I want to talk about with regards to your story and just all that you are. And you're such a beacon of light to the world. And you're just doing such incredible work. And you're such an incredible mama. And I want to talk about all the different things. So I'm so excited to have you on. But what I'd like to do is just have you introduce yourself to our audience because you know yourself better than anybody. So I would love for you just to kind of introduce yourself, share a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about your story.
Okay, so I am Charla Grim. I am a mom. I am a caregiver and a wife. I grew up in a small town called Chelsea, Michigan, where actually Jiffy Mix is made. And Jeff Daniel lives. Small little tidbit. I don't know if y'all know that, but he owns the Purple Rose and he's an amazing, funny guy. Chelsea was always a small town living. You knew everybody, obviously very community driven. Friday night football games, all that fun stuff. Very small town like. Um, so it was just me, my mom, my sister mainly. Obviously, I did grow up with a stepdad. I don't know my real father. Um, Never met him. Never really wanted to, just for many reasons. And my mom was always the hardworking, community-minded woman. She was my best friend and honestly my true anchor to life, I feel like. Um, she shaped me, um, she shaped me I feel like who I am today, part of me who I am today. I met my husband, Nick, in high school. We were just kids, literally, but I feel like we grew in every life stage together up until now. He actually lost his mom as a teenager, due to Huntington's disease. And I feel like that's kind of what brought us together the most, or how we connected, was through his loss of his mother and just feeling like alone. He was very quiet and had a lot of social anxiety. Um, and so I feel like through losing that, we connected and we grew pretty strong. We dated obviously all the way through high school. We got engaged when we were 19 and 20. I know, and we got married
Babies.
babies. We thought we were like invincible though. I feel like we were such like cool kids getting engaged young and so we got engaged in 2011, got married in 2012. So I was 20 and 21. And obviously then shortly October 13th of 2012 is when we got married. And then literally New Year's Eve in 2013 is when we got pregnant with my oldest Mason. So,
Ah,
and he was easy. He was honestly, I think we had some tequila that night and I believe like we had a fun and we created Mason. So, that's when life was easier, when you could have, just drink a little tequila and get pregnant. So,
right? Well, I feel like with life, sometimes you may as well like just do it all at once. Like I remember my mom always saying like there's never a perfect time to get married. There's never a perfect time to have babies. So you may as well just like when you know it's right, just go for it and just do it. And that seems like your story a little bit.
yeah, it literally, I felt like, I mean, it wasn't planned. Like, it wasn't like we were for sure planning Mason, like we wanted to get married and then have kids, but we knew like we wanted to have kids sooner or later. I always knew I wanted to be a mother, like that's for sure. And I think his childhood and his rough like hood with losing his mom so young, his dad struggled through, drinking and other things. And I think like his brother even became his guardian through his high school years. And I think like for him, he always knew he wanted to be a dad. Like, not that his dad wasn't a great dad in his own ways. He was. It just wasn't, I guess, what he's expecting. I think he wanted to be different for his children. And so I think through both of that, and he was like, he now to our kids is the father that I always wanted, I think, growing up, right? I think what I envisioned having that I maybe didn't have fully. He is everything and more. So I'm like so grateful that he is my partner in life, because I think that like through our own struggles is kind of where we now are really strong in, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you have Mason, your two babies, raising a baby, and then there a big pivotal moment in your life was getting pregnant with your son, Emmett. And can you and losing him, well, spoiler alert, to people that are listening, can you talk about that story? So you guys are, two babies, raising a baby with Mason, and then you want to grow your family. Get into that for me.
Yeah. So I mean, shortly after we had Mason, we knew we wanted more. We actually always talked about having three boys and one girl. Like that's kind of like in that order is kind of what I've always envisioned and what we wanted. But for some reason, I struggled with infertility. So I struggled for about 7 years with infertility. I was young, so I didn't realize that like I could have resources and go to clinics and talk with people and like talk to my doctor. I mean, I went to appointments, but not like nearly enough. I was more of a workaholic and a mother of Mason, and I feel like I was just trying to provide and live, but also trying to like expand. And so not knowing the resources out there to have help was something I didn't know at that time. And so finally, I would say After 4 years of struggling, I finally reached out to my primary care doctor at Chelsea Family Medicine, which I'm still there to this day. And she referred me to U of M for the fertility clinics through U of M at Briarwood. And it was a great experience. I will forever be thankful for U of M for many reasons, and we'll get to that later too as well. Um, but finally, after about, 7 years of struggling, we got pregnant. And that was at the time was with twins. I lost one twin at 13 weeks and then went on carrying Emmett to 38 weeks and lost him stillborn, obviously. So it was that was March 16th of 2020. So just days before COVID actually. COVID just shut down, I think March 11th or March 12th or something like that. And so it was kind of insane. I remember going up to the hospital and just like they weren't gonna let my husband in it. They weren't gonna let Nick in at all, I think, at one point. And I was like, no, like I can't do this alone. I felt like there was something wrong. Like I knew I had pretty much woken up from a nap and I just felt this odd sensation of pressure like on my left side. And I knew something wasn't right. And I was like, but who knows? He might just be like, sleeping, all that stuff. You never know, right? And so I rushed up to the hospital. And that's where they brought me into triage. They, of course, hooked up the monitor with a little baby thing with a baby monitor on your belly, and they couldn't find a heartbeat. And then they then pulled out the ultrasound machine. And unfortunately, that's like when they said those three words, like, we are so sorry. Like, we're sorry. But, he's no longer with us. And I think, like, you know, that was for sure a really hard thing. Like one of the hardest three words I've heard is like, we're so sorry. But like it was almost not the most dramatic part of the whole story, right? And so, yeah.
And you, up until that point, like with Emmett, there weren't any real signs that which to me is so tragic and it's in its own and heartbreaking in its own way when you think like, oh, we're almost there, counting down the days, like Emmett's almost here, and the excitement builds, and then to go in and have somebody say, "I'm so sorry, he's not," we can't
Yeah.
find a heartbeat.
My last appointment was March 11th, actually. And so it was with a nurse practitioner. And I remember, like I said, everyone was just like, the hype was COVID. That was the thing, right? And so when I went in there, his heart rate, they normally check the heart rate, obviously to see if you're like dilated, all the stuff they check you. And his heart rate was lower that day, like pretty low. And he said, "Is this normal?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, you're probably just preparing for like to deliver, right? Like you're getting ready for birth." And so I was like, okay, like I, of course, like didn't advocate more, even though I should have maybe. And I just trusted the fact that she knew what she was doing. And I'm not saying like I blame her by any means, and obviously in given situation, but that could have been a true fact, right? And so, you know, I felt though in my heart that something was wrong, especially with the lower heartbeat, but I kind of ignored that because I didn't realize how much as like women in pregnancy that we can really advocate for ourselves. And now obviously I do know that you can ask for anything, even an NST, like right when you're pregnant, and I think maybe if I would have asked for a non-stress test, they would have seen blood flow, from the placenta to the cord and maybe saw him just in distress and who knows would have delivered me earlier. But honestly, those what ifs, which you'll have a lot of, are something that you'll never kind of get past, I guess, right? But
Yeah. And it is hard to be, like you said, it's hard to be a woman in these situations because there's so many emotions going on, and you're listening to doctors who and others who are supposed to know everything, and you're relying on them. But the reality is they don't know everything. And I think any doctor or nurse that would be on this podcast would say the same thing. And so it's so important for women to have a plan and to know, okay, how can I advocate for myself? And it's so sad, Charla, because sometimes we have to experience something really traumatic or something negative to kind of get us to think through, like, okay, in the future, with my next pregnancy, this is what I'm going to do. And I know that we can't go back, and change the story that's been written, but for people that are listening, like, if you were, you, Charlotte, today could rewind, like, what are a couple of things that you would have asked for? I know you said the NST, but like, what are some things that you would have asked for that maybe somebody else who's listening might be like, oh, let me mark that down and ask my doctor for that?
Definitely the NST because I feel like with my pregnancy after Emmett, which I did have, that's something that they gave me regardless, just because I was already at higher risk from having a stillborn. And so the NST, I think I would have definitely asked for a second opinion with the doctor instead of just with the nurse practitioner. And just like trusting your body and trusting your gut feeling. Like I knew I left there knowing that like something felt uneasy, but like just I wish I could tell myself like, hey, it's okay, just turn around and go back. Like you can do it. Like you know what I mean? Like just because there was so many other things going on doesn't mean that you're not important. And although they help several patients out a day, like at the end of the day, you are more important, because you got to advocate for yourself. And if you don't ask, you won't ever know, and you'll always have those what ifs.
Yeah, doing research and asking questions. I think that Instagram now today more than ever, even back in 2020, I feel like Instagram is full of so many more resources, probably too much, where I find myself like, okay, I need to mark all these things down. And these are all the things that I need to ask my doctor for. But it's so important for women to be educated, to hear stories like yours, to say, like, okay, how can we band together and support one another so that other women don't go through a similar situation? The world tells women and girls that they don't matter, that one woman, one girl can't be a revolution. But that's not true. Every woman and every girl is a one girl revolution. Join the Every Woman, Every Girl campaign today by posting a video or graphic on social media telling us why you are a one girl revolution. Tag us, collab with us on Instagram, and shout out a woman or girl who inspires you. Tell us who is a one girl revolution in your life. Together, we are lifting voices, telling stories, and reminding every woman and girl who she really is. Follow along, share your story, and be a part of the movement. Because when every woman and every girl rises, the whole world changes. Join us today at onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number one, girlrevolution.com. Charlotte, you said something that I'm very curious about. You said that the three words that you heard were not the most traumatic thing that happened to you. And I this is your story, so you can share whatever you want to share and don't share whatever you want to share. But what did you mean by that? Or what were the other traumatic parts that you wouldn't mind sharing?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I was surrounded by so many incredible nurses and doctors at the U of M when I actually found out that I had lost him. I mean, they cared for me like I was their family. And so it was very like it just felt very warm and surrounded by love. And obviously my mom, like they let my mom up there after I had to beg a little bit because of COVID. Things were shutting down and my husband was there. And so I actually have, I feel like two traumatic situations, obviously knowing that like not knowing, I don't even know how to put this in words, like giving birth to your child that had already passed. Like I think no one ever can set you up like for success with that, right? Like there's nothing you could ever do to plan. I mean, they were already inducing me for labor and it's not like I had a C-section. I mean, I had a full-term child inside my stomach, inside me, right? Like, and so I had to be induced and I obviously chose to be induced instead of C-section for many reasons. Um, and I think being induced is so scary because you almost want to, your body wants to stop you from doing this because you're so nervous to see what the outcome's going to be. And although I don't know how many times I just laid there praying that like, obviously like I would give birth to him and things would change. It would just be totally different. Right. And so I remember actually like laying there and when I started pushing and actually having like going into active labor, I don't know if you ever watched the show Roswell, New Mexico. It was like the newest one that came out with, I think it's Jenna Ortega. Um, if you haven't, you should watch it.
Okay.
But the song Zombie played. I don't know if you know the song Zombie.
From the Cranberries?
Yes.
Yes, love that song.
Um, So, which I actually found out was, in there it says like a mom lost, I think, I can't remember the exact lyrics. I should, because I listened to it
Hmm.
so many times, but obviously, like, it says a mom losing a child in the song.
Hmm.
And I thought, like, wow, like this, like the fact that song played during that time, it like always stuck with me kind of thing, because I'm like, you know, but I just feel like every moment, like I feel like after you give birth and after you leave the hospital, all the things, like you replay those moments in your head over and over again of the situation. But I mean, the moment that I gave birth to him and he came out, I think, seeing him in his lifeless body and like, not hearing him cry and you know, not having him be there, I mean, that was seriously so, so traumatizing and so traumatic and like just created a lot of PTSD for me. I mean, I don't know how many times after coming from the hospital, I just cried like in the shower, like wanting to have my baby back, and I couldn't, I mean, I think where he laid on my chest, I avoided washing that area for the longest time because, I didn't want his smell to get off of me. So, but
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think, delivery for sure is very traumatic. I think, the reality sets in that, you're not going home with a baby. You're going home with a bloodstained blanket and a box full of stuff that the hospital gives you for keepsakes, which is amazing. A bereavement box is awesome, and then instead of, signing the birth certificate, you're filling out the cremation paperwork and sending them to the morgue instead of bringing them home with you. So, I mean, I think that was the most traumatic, but then coming home to his 6-year-old brother and with the empty car seat and having to explain that you're not going to be a big brother. Your baby brother's in heaven. I will never forget Mason's face and how much trauma he experienced. And then having to watch his mom cry for weeks on end. But he is such a like my amazing, kind, caring soul. And I think that like that's almost what shaped him a little bit to be so loving and caring is seeing him and his mom and his dad go through this and like, but I mean, now he gets to be a big brother. I mean, Emmett still always will be his brother too, right? Just heaven bound, but he has Garrison now. Garrison obviously is our rainbow baby, and we obviously went through infertility treatment again and got pregnant with him in 2021 and had him September of 2021. So they're exactly 8 years and 1 week apart. So, and they're best friends. And I think having Garrison really healed a part of Mason that I really saw healed him in so many ways. It's amazing. So,
And Garrison's such a little beacon of light. I got to meet him the other day and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so cute.
he
I,
is. He is
I
just,
still, Charlotte, I have to tell you, I was still like laughing the other day about, and I told my husband Joe about how you were like, Garrison, you have to hold my hand. And he like held his hands up and he was like, I'm holding my own hand. I was like,
I know, he's a very determined, strong-willed little boy that knows what he wants, and he is the boss. I mean, even today, Mason was sleeping, and he's like, "No, Bubby." Like he bosses his older Bubby, or he calls him Bubby. He's like, "No, Bubby, you have to get up. You have to do this. You have to." I'm like, "Excuse me, are you the parent? Like, are you the mommy?" So,
No, but it is. It's such the both of them are such little beacons of light. And Emmett is still, such a little beacon of light. And his legacy and his life continues on through your family. And I think it's so important. It's so important that we tell these stories, right? And I know that Mason and Garrison are going to have their own stories to tell about Emmett down the road as they get older. But it's so important for us to talk about it. And thankfully, we're out of the culture that used to be like, back in the 50s and 60s, where, you don't talk about loss, even adults, right? Adults die
yeah.
and it's like, don't talk about it. And, I have family members that would tell stories about, little kids and their parent died. And it was like, don't talk about them because you don't want them to be remembered. And it's like, no, we need to talk about these stories and their life and their legacy continues on. And there is there is a purpose for every single baby, for every single story, even in loss, right? There's a reason that you went through that and that you and your family went through that. And now you sharing your story, you're able to help other people. And I think that, not to sugarcoat something so traumatic and something so difficult, but when we can look at our life that way and say, maybe I went through this for a reason that I can help other people, especially those really hard things.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the only thing that gets me through things where it's like, okay, there's a reason. And maybe one day I'm going to be able to help other people. And I think, Charla, through you sharing so openly on social media about Emmett, so openly about your experience, your loss, has given other people outlets to share their stories. And I'm sure you could even like tell a story or two of people that have reached out to you from social media that.
Yeah, I mean, I shared, it's funny when you reached out to me to the podcast, I was like reminiscing and obviously on October 15th, 5 years ago, this month is actually when I first shared my story of Emmett. Obviously we were gearing back to you know, getting back to the real world. Things were kind of getting better for not better for COVID. I don't think anything got better. Things changed. But um I was just ready because I was getting messages in response. And I think like the time from March to October, like I ignored so many messages. I knew that I wasn't ready. And I knew that I knew there was gonna be a moment when I was ready. And actually seeing Chrissy Teigen and John Legend's story of losing their loss actually inspired me to share my loss. And through that, I actually got several messages of moms and mothers, women who lost their children, and similar stories, late term losses, even, 20 weeks, obviously some mothers have to choose, because of a really hard decision with genetic issues and whatnot. So once I shared my story on October 15th of 2020, I mean, I've gotten so many really inspiring messages from women and just making them feel like my story made them feel not so alone, and they never were brave enough to share their story, and now because of it, they wanted to share their story. And even if it was just with me, like it's still sharing it, and I think that's huge and very powerful in itself.
Charla, I know there's so much that you could say when you think about Emmett and you think about his story and his legacy, but what do you want people to know about Emmett?
Um, Emmett was perfect in his own way, and I know nothing in life is perfect, but I feel like because, of the situation it was he was peaceful. I mean, his name means truth. And that's exactly what he gave me. A truth about life and love and what I feel like in a way like after experiencing like losing a child like this and the birth and everything, um, it just really shows you what really matters in life, right? And he changed that completely for me. He taught me, I think, the purest love there could be. And sometimes, you know, it never takes, even though it's the purest love, sometimes that never takes a breath, I guess, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And so I think in a way that's kind of what he taught me. I think to really soak in every moment and really take a step back and just enjoy motherhood because I still had, I obviously still had Mason, and then I knew I was meant to have more, and I did have Garrison, and to really enjoy what I could of the pregnancy because it was really nerve-wracking, but also just enjoy every moment because, after birth of Emma, I lost him, but I also still create my body still created milk. I still was going through postpartum, and I actually was able to I create a lot of milk for some reason, but I was able to breast pump and donate the milk, when I lost Emmett. So that was huge for me too as well. And so I feel like, you know, yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So I know that you can only speak to your own experience, right? You're not an expert on, on what you experience, but you can speak to your own experience. For mothers who have experienced stillbirth, miscarriage, or infant loss, I know that there are really no words for that pain. But how did you begin to navigate your grief and find a way to live through it?
Um, I feel like I started small. Therapy was my biggest thing. I think, thank God for the fertility clinic through U of M. I mean, they connected me with a great therapist. Um, I think connecting with other moms through loss, I think that was huge for me, trying to find support where you could, or just trying to find someone who could really like make your feelings feel normal. Um, so I think that was huge. And I think although COVID was awful, I think it really forced me to slow down and sit with my grief. Um, Obviously, we were told to stay home, and which in a way was a kind of a strange gift for us because my husband, my son, and I, Mason and Nick got to stay home and I guess be in a safe space and process it, to where it was good for us. And so, and obviously, like grief does not have a timeline. You don't owe anyone any explanation. And I think the biggest thing is that like when you're experiencing grief, especially a loss like this, you'll know when you're ready. You'll know when you're ready to tell people. Just because people are reaching out doesn't mean you have to answer back. Like, if you're not ready, you're not ready. And when you are ready, you'll know when it's time to share your voice, your story, your child, all the things, and I think that's huge to remind yourself that, like, don't push yourself if you're not ready.
And it's okay not to, like you said, it's okay not to respond. It's okay not to share your story. It's okay not to share your story on social media. I think in this day and age, it's so beautiful when people like yourself do share their stories, and it encourages other people to share their stories. But there's sometimes aspects of our story that we're not meant to share, right? Or we don't feel comfortable or confident sharing, and being okay with that. Because I think sometimes social media can be this like space for oversharing where we feel like we need to journal every single aspect of everything that we've ever done, what I've eaten today, or all the things. I think back to like when Facebook started, Charla, and the
Yeah.
amount of like silly, ridiculous things that I posted, like one sentence things like this is what I ate for dinner, or I just went to go see a movie. It's like, why was I journaling on Facebook? And sometimes people strive to do that on Instagram. And it's like, sometimes you need to step away. And especially in these moments of grief and loss, we need to just collect our thoughts, build our little cocoon, right? Like, which you did with your family, and say, you know what, we're going to get through this together. And if and when the time is right, and we feel like we need to share our story, we will. And certain audiences, right? You don't have to share with every single person, but it is so powerful to me when women like yourself do share their stories, because it does open up outlets for other people to find healing and support and resources, and just to know that they're not alone.
Exactly. I feel that. Oh my gosh. I know that's all I ever wanted, I think, to share my story just so people don't feel alone, first and foremost, but also know that there are resources or you can advocate for yourself. Like, maybe sharing my story could help women feel inspired to advocate for their pregnancy, to ask more questions, to give pushback. I think that, yeah, I'm not big on posting on social media. I do, especially now with more of my job, but like, and now I do it obviously not to make anyone feel sad for me or, I like to post even on October 15th. I think a lot of people reached out to me like feeling sad. I'm so sorry. I'm like, well, no, it's like it's not that I'm sad. I just want to, I'm doing it in honoring of him on October 15th, or it's been 5 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that kind of thing, so
Yeah, and it is so healing. It can be so healing to share different aspects of your story, because we know that saying where it's like you never know what somebody's going through, and it's like there are different chapters of life that sometimes you're going through and you're like, yeah, nobody even knows that I'm struggling, or October 15th rolls around and nobody knows that I had this loss. Or I think about so many women who have had losses or who have miscarried, and the day that their baby was supposed to be born, rolls around and it's just a painful day, and nobody knows unless they share it. So I think there is such power in helping other people kind of gain perspective and compassion and empathy for what all of us are going through. So I think it is really important to, like, not saying that people shouldn't share their stories. I think it's just like a timing. You have to be ready for it, and don't ever feel pressure that you have to share your story. But
exactly.
Charlotte, many people don't know what to say when a loss happens. And I say that even about adults. Like, I remember the ridiculous things that sometimes people said, even like when my mom died, is like people just don't know what to say. And so they either don't say anything, or sometimes they find the words or they know the words. Somebody who has experienced something similar, I feel like usually are the people that have the best words or like know what to say. Um, but people that are listening, who know someone who has lost a child, whether it be through miscarriage or stillbirth or just infant loss, what would you want people to understand about how to best love and support grieving parents? And or is there something that somebody said to you that was really positive that you were like, yes, or something that somebody did for you when you were going through this chapter?
Um, I think the best thing, one of my good friends actually, she still brings up like asks me like how you doing? Like, to be honest, I set an alarm for Emmett, so the time that he was born, it actually goes off every night for myself. So at 10:17 p.m. is when my alarm goes off and I take a moment of that minute and just I don't know, say I love you, I'm thinking of you, that kind of thing. I remember when Laura and I actually went to San Diego and it went off and she asked me what that alarm was for. I told her, and I think I got her into tears, which I was like, don't be sad. Like, I know people get so sad. I'm like, it's just for me to, I want to remember him every day, kind of thing. But I think the biggest thing is like my friend, she always would call and ask me like and say his name. Um, she would send me flowers on his birthday, a card on his birthday, that kind of stuff. I think that's huge. I think people, it's really hard for moms who have had such a late term loss, especially that, you're supposed to bring this baby in the world. Like you want to say, oh, how many kids do you have? I want to say three all the time, but sometimes be like, oh, well, where are they? What are they doing? And it's like, I only have two here. It's like, so it's always that uncomfortableness of having to say, but I always say it anyways, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Um, the biggest thing that someone said to me is, oh, God, God had a purpose for this. And I think I was so angry for that for so long. But in reality, now I look back at it, I think, honestly, there was a purpose for why, and I think in a way it's weird, but it definitely has brought me to what I'm doing today nowadays, right? So um I think I guess, I don't know if I answered the question. I
You
hope I
did.
did.
Yeah, you did. And I think it's so beautiful for every single person to find a way to honor them, right? Like whether
Yeah.
it's speaking their names, and even that's something that I have found with like other friends or family members that have lost children. It's like they exist. They existed. They're real. Emmett's real. And even though he's not here, we need to still talk about him like he is here. He is a part of our lives. He'll always be a part of our lives. And so I think simple things like that, like speaking their name into the world, is so powerful. Um, but also everybody's journey is different, right? So some people, I also know people that are like, they don't want to do that. They don't want to. So you kind of have to
Yeah.
respect people where they're at. But I love that about you setting the alarm just to think about Emmett and knowing like every single day you have a little reminder. Yeah, that's really beautiful to me.
Yeah, it was definitely, I mean, some people don't find it as beautiful, which is fine, but like it's in a way it's just a day to remember or a minute just to honor that he was here and that like he would be here. And instead of tucking him into bed every night, I now get to think about him in that way. I know it sounds sad too as well, but even my boys do it, right? They tell him they love his baby, they love you, baby brother, and Garrison doesn't quite understand yet quite, but he knows, I think, but in time, yeah. So
Yeah, it's in time he'll know. And I
yeah.
think it's really beautiful when families continue to include their little baby that's no longer with us, but still will always be a part of our lives and a part of our hearts too. So
Yeah, for sure.
every woman, every girl. The world tells them they don't matter, but we know the truth. Every woman and every girl is a one girl revolution. Through the Every Woman, Every Girl campaign, we're telling powerful stories, lifting voices, and reminding women and girls everywhere of their worth, their purpose, and the power that they hold to change the world. But we can't do it without you. Your donation helps us share more stories, reach more women and girls, and change more lives. Join the movement today. Support the campaign. Donate at onegirlrevolution.com/donate. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com/donate. because when every woman and every girl rises, the whole world changes. I know that Charlotte can be so isolating, going through loss in all different aspects of it, but particularly being a mama and losing a baby. How have you found connection and hope? But really like thinking about women, right? Like we need connection, we need support, we need community. How have you found that in your life?
I mean, through honestly now, I mean, I did a lot of support groups, obviously, when I was, even trying to get pregnant again, trying to find that connection to like pregnancy after loss and such a late loss. So there are a lot of support groups out there locally too. So I mean, it's good to know, like, to do your research, ask, your social worker at the hospital, that kind of stuff. But I now work fully for Belora Fertility Foundation, which a lot of my connections are made through there now, which is amazing, which Berlora was formerly known as Chosen Fertility Group. And we do grants for IVF, IUI, surrogacy, and acupuncture. And so I feel like a lot of women I actually met or meet actually have had like either late term losses or losses in general that are still trying to, grow their family. And I think that like to make that connection and have that is huge. So the support socials are out there though. So definitely like go find those Facebook groups, find a buddy, a friend that you can message. I still have two moms that I still talk to now on social media and check in every year. Because they lost their boy, well, one was a daughter, one was a son. So one was in Canada and I can't remember the other one was. That's so funny, but yeah, she was somewhere lower
Yeah.
state, but yeah.
Community is so important. And one thing about Brie Laura's work that I so appreciate is those community aspects, right? Where you're doing all these meetups. And I know you just did a photography session for families and individuals that they could go and be a part of. We did like, what was it, a week or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? We did the
Recess club.
walk, yeah, the
Yeah,
recess club with Melissa Coulier.
yeah, which is
And so just
amazing.
finding that support system, women need support. And you're exactly right that those groups are out there and people can obviously reach out to Brie Laura if they want to get more information, if they want to get involved, or if they're just looking for community. And I know that, you guys do a lot of work mostly in Michigan and in California, but you also have connections all over. And like that's
We do.
also one girl revolution too. It's like reach out to us because we also have so many connections. So if you're looking for something to get involved in or you feel like you need that support system, they do exist.
Yes, we do. Yeah, and we can definitely find a connection somewhere, I'm sure. So,
Charla, so talk about your life now. So you have three children. We talked about Emmett. Talk about your kids now, your husband, and your work with Brie Laura. I know you kind of gave a little teaser there.
yes. So Mason is now 12. He just turned 12 and Garrison just turned 4. Mason's in football full time. He goes to Celine, and right now they're undefeated. He has his last game tomorrow against Jackson, so we're gearing up for that. Um, Garrison is 4. He's just my little assistant half the time, working remotely from home. He came with us on our little work meeting outing in Northville the other day with Kate and Lauren. But next year he'll be in school full time, which is crazy, young fives. And Nick actually, he's amazing. He works for BTI Technology. He is following after his grand footsteps a little bit, which is such a great way to honor him. And so he does a lot of machine building for like NASA and Tesla and I mean, the army, like just balancing technology parts. I don't even know all of it, honestly. I should know more, but so yeah, he's doing amazing things there. And so we're really so in love with what we have going on and whatnot. And obviously, Berlora, I just started full time not too long ago. The opportunity came up, and Lauren asked me to be her first full time employee, and I was like, oh my God, I'd be so honored. And honestly, doing the work and working with these people, these families trying to build their families, is huge. It really fills that hole in my heart that was left there by losing Emmett. And I really feel like this was my purpose. My purpose was to help make, people's lives a little easier by financially trying to go through such a hard journey itself, which is fertility, and the cost of it is so expensive. And obviously being able to do grants for surrogacy and IVF, even IUI, which is a smaller one, or acupuncture, which, it's just huge. And so I think I am so grateful every day that I get to wake up and just do this work that I do with Lauren every day. I will never not be grateful. So,
Also, shout out to Lauren because she truly is a one girl revolution and she is such a beacon of light. And this conversation sort of sparked out of some text messages with her because she loves you and I love you. And like, I'm so grateful to be able to share your story, Charla. And I know that there are big things ahead for all three of us. And I love
yeah.
our lunch dates. And I feel like we've been able to be so supportive and encouraging of each other. And I'm just so grateful for our little trifecta. So shout out to Lauren.
Yeah, shout out to her. She is one of the hardest, most inspiring women I've ever worked with. And no, so yes, and Kate too. Oh my gosh, Kate is
Oh,
amazing.
well, thank you. You're amazing. Charla, so you know that you're on the One Girl Revolution podcast. So I want to know from your perspective, what does a one girl revolution mean? Or what does that mean to you when you look at the world?
To me, I feel like one girl revolution means using your story, even the hardest parts, to make a difference, turning pain into purpose, and reminding others that the one voice can create so much change.
Well, you are doing that through your life and through your work and just through sharing your story and just by being you every single day. Who is a one girl revolution in your life? Who's a woman or girl that inspires you, Charla?
My mom will always, I feel like, be that one woman that inspires me. She is a definition of strength and grace. Watching her love me through every loss, every journey. Um, Obviously the best Mimi ever, the best mother-in-law ever. I mean, she is just a force to be reckoned with. I mean, she's just amazing. So she inspires me every day to be better. So.
Our new campaign, which I know I shared with you about, is called Every Woman, Every Girl, because we believe that every single woman and girl has the power to change the world through her life. How do you see that truth play out in your own life and with the women and girls who are around you?
I feel like every woman or every girl carries something, hope, heartbreak, resilience. When we come together and remind each other that we're not alone, um, I think that's huge. And I think that's what I see every day in my life and the work that I do too as well, right? So
Charla, I am just so grateful to know you. I'm so grateful to have you as a sister and a friend. I will put all of your social media links. I will put the links to Brie Laura so people can get in touch with you there. I will put, the website for Brie Laura so people can get in touch with you. And obviously, we'll continue having our lunches and continue scheming and coming up with ways that we can all work together and support one another. But before I let you go, I always end this podcast on one question. So I'd like to ask you, if you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
I'm kind of stealing this a little bit from Lauren because I feel like ever since she has told me this, I mean, it's stuck truth now to me that there is gold. Like she says, there's gold in every part of your story, and really, honestly, with Laura slash Chosen because it was once chosen, there is gold in every part of your story, even the painful parts. I think when it finds purpose, we don't walk alone anymore. We become a light for someone else. And, we could become that beacon of light and hope and, that we all get to walk together and do this hard life. Sometimes life's hard, right? So yeah.
It's so true. And I love that so much that there is gold in every aspect of your story. And I love that she says that. And it's such you girls are
Yeah.
such a beacon of light to me.
Yeah. And honestly, like full credit to Lauren because that's like literally the saying of my life now, I feel like, so.
It's so true. And how differently we would look at our lives if we like actually saw that and said, you know what? I might not know what the gold is right now. This is a really not great chapter of life, but I know that one day I'll find the gold. And so it's such an important reminder. But Charla, I am so grateful to have had you on the One Girl Revolution podcast. Thank you so much for making the time to be on. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for everything that you are. You are such a gift to this world.
So are you, seriously. I am so like the fact that my life brought me to you and cross paths and your sisters, like I am just so grateful forever.
Yeah.
So
Also,
thank you.
you and Lauren are, adopted into the into the Bryan sister girl gang. So I'm so grateful for you and yeah, for everything that you and Lauren have been such a supportive system for my sisters and I. So thank you.
Well, thank you too as well. We appreciate you.
For more from One Girl Revolution, to listen to all of our podcast episodes, watch our Emmy-nominated documentary series, follow us on social media, donate to our nonprofit organization, and more, please visit onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com.